Good morning, everyone. Members, if you haven't already, if you could please turn on your video cameras, and we will begin by conducting roll. Denise, will you assist us with that?
Patty Spiegler. Lena Bradshaw.
Here.
Erin Frazier.
Here.
Lori Firemuth.
Here.
Lori Fury.
Here.
Lindsay Gatfield.
Here.
Crystal Gomez.
Here.
Janet Hollister.
Here.
Lisa Hogerman.
Here.
Stephanie Holloway.
Here.
Andrew Huffaker.
Here.
Janie Kim.
Here.
Rebecca Pariso.
Here.
Christina Rubalcava.
Here.
Theodore Sagun. Bernadette Salgarino.
Here.
Cole Sampson.
Here.
Rosa Saratore. Diane Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Welcome, committee members and guests. I'm Shanine Coates, Director of the Curriculum Frameworks and Instructional Resources Division. And thank you again for being with us for the 8th and final meeting of the Mathematics Curriculum Framework and Evaluation Criteria Committee, the Math CFCC. It's hard to believe these last 2 days will be our final meeting. So much has transpired and so much valuable work has taken place during this year, 2020. Our agenda for this meeting is full, so this one too promises to be a highly productive meeting. We hope that every one of you is feeling proud of your invaluable work and contributions to the revision of this important state-level guidance document. As we get set to begin the day's activities, please remember that chapter final reads are intended to give you an opportunity to review each draft chapter one last time and provide recommendations on the content of the chapter. Your reviews at this stage are intended to be on the framework as a whole. That is to say, is the framework as cohesive as it can be? Does it flow? Is the content unified? And also, how can we strengthen the connections between chapters? In other words, unless you identify a significant flaw, which to be clear, we do want you to address, you are providing final fine-tuning recommendations. At the same time, we are asking that you review the draft frameworks addressing or complying to the State Board of Education guidelines for the revision of the math framework. And part of your task in the final review is to recommend ways to strengthen the framework's content in alignment with those guidelines. That is the purpose of the guidelines tracking tool that you've been utilizing since September. So as you've seen on the agenda, we are reviewing chapters in batches this time, and this will allow us to have more time on each chapter than we had when we were just looking at each chapter separately. And our team of wonderful CDE facilitators will help guide your small group discussions so that you're able to maximize your time. Remember that we had asked you to be judicious with your recommendations, and you were. And so they're all considered high priority on the consensus trackers that you'll see today. Finally, a word about tomorrow afternoon. At the end of your chapter discussions tomorrow, your final act will be to recommend the draft framework with your final recommendations to the Instructional Quality Commission, who will review that framework at its January meeting. And so with that in mind, just keep in mind that as you complete your work, it will sometimes be necessary to set aside matters that do not have complete agreement on to reach consensus so that we can complete the work today. And before we adjourn tomorrow, we will discuss next steps with you in the framework revision process and tell you the ways that you can continue to participate in the framework revision. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge our State Board of Education liaison, Member Recker, and also State Board staff, Dr. Pamela Castleman. Thank you both for your invaluable contributions to the development of the framework. I would also like to acknowledge Instructional Quality Commission member Christine Chapman, who is joining us today. Commissioner Chapman is the chair of the Mathematics Subject Matter Committee. Commissioner, would you like to say a few words to the committee?
Yes, thank you, Shanine. It is such a pleasure to join you all today as you wrap up your work on the math framework. It's hard to believe that less than a year ago, we were all together in the CDE boardroom starting this process. But not even a pandemic could stop your progress in regards to this important project today. I want to thank you for your perseverance during this process. I know it must have been very difficult, especially for our teachers who are holding down classrooms and doing this hard work at the same time and learning a new way to teach. And I really look forward to joining you today and seeing your progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chapman. I will now turn it over to Constantino Silva to take us through the agenda.
Thank you, Director Coates. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, committee members. Happy final meeting. It is indeed a thrill, honestly, to be where we are today. So welcome, everybody. By now, very briefly, you're all very familiar with these procedures, but of course, we also do this to help members of the public understand how it is that the committee carries out its work in the virtual environment. Remember the all-important mute button. It's located in the menu bar at the bottom left of your screen. Click the mute button to mute and unmute yourself throughout the meeting. Please ensure that your microphone is off when you are not speaking to reduce background noise. Next to the microphone, you will see the caret or circumflex symbol. It looks like the tip of an arrow pointing up. If you're having any issues with your audio connection, this is where you will find other audio connection options. And finally, reactions. These are found in the participants button. We will discuss the primary Zoom reactions that we will be using throughout the meeting at a later time. For now, I will simply point out that this is where you will find the raise hand feature, which you will use when you wish to speak. When you have your hand raised, the co-chairs will call on you, at which time you will unmute yourself and provide your comment. So just like in previous meetings, the chat feature has been turned off due to Bagley-Keene restrictions regarding the public's access to all CFCC discussions. In the instance that we do have to use the chat to share materials, for example, or links, we will be sure that those materials and links are also made available to the public. A review of our agenda this morning. In a moment, we will discuss our meeting norms and procedures for the virtual meeting. Of course, again, you're all very familiar with that, but we also do it for the public's sake. Then we will have the CDE and Writers Comments related to the first batch of chapters that you will be discussing this morning. Those are chapters 3, 4, and 5. And then we will move into the breakout rooms for those discussions on those chapters. We'll take a break and we will return to do the whole group discussion on those same chapters, chapters 3, 4, and 5. That will take us to lunch, and we will likely need to conclude the work in the whole group following lunch. So we'll have the second part of that whole group discussion after lunch. We will then prepare to review the next two chapters by starting with the CDE and Writers Comments related to those chapters, and those chapters are chapters 2 and 12. And we will break out into the small groups for those discussions. And then we will take a break and return for public comment, following which we will have the whole group discussion at the end of the day on chapters 2 and 12. Before we wrap up today, we will have an overview of tomorrow's agenda. For this meeting, you received the following materials. Of course, the agenda with the schedule and the links to the Zoom breakouts. You also received the draft chapters, all 10 chapters that you are reviewing during this meeting. So there are the chapter numbers. You have also received, once again, the State Board approved schedule of significant events. the guidelines for the revision of the math framework, and all public comment received by the deadline has been uploaded into the public comments folders. That was done yesterday, so you should have all of the public comments available to you via the links that we provided you. And finally, for our members of the public, anyone who does not already have the draft chapters or would like to access them, you may write the mailbox on the screen to receive the box link for those chapters. Okay. Just a quick note related to public comment, which will take place at 3:35 or no earlier than 3:35 this afternoon. Members of the public, you can view the whole group discussions via the CDE webcast, and you will be able to access the small groups via the Zoom links provided to you. However, public comment will take place via the telephone line that is listed on the screen. We will project this slide once again at public comment time. Additionally, if you wish to submit written comments, you may do so. However, it is past the deadline, and we would invite you to consider submitting any written public comments to the Instructional Quality Commission, where the framework will be reviewed next in January, and we will have more information about the Instructional Quality Commission and that meeting tomorrow. Our norms, you again are all very familiar with these, but please be present and focused during the entire meeting. If your camera is not on, we will assume that you are away. Be sure to monitor your airtime. The rule of thumb that we have used, I think, has worked well. 3 before me. If you recall, that what this means is that if you have already spoken once, at least allow at least 3 people the opportunity to speak before requesting to speak again. Again, when not speaking, please leave your microphone on mute. And when voting, please do not remove your vote. Our staff will clear the votes after they have been counted. And finally, please pay attention to your background and lighting. Are there any comments or questions related to our meeting norms before we get into our next activity? Okay, thank you. Back to you, Director Coates.
Perfect. Thank you, Constantino. So as you've seen on our agenda, before the small group discussion for each of the chapter groupings, the writing team, along with the CDE, will provide background and content information for that particular batch of chapters that will be addressed. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Dr. Brian Lindeman, lead writer for the Mathematics Framework, and his team to say a few words regarding chapters 3, 4, and 5. Dr. Lindeman?
Yes, hi, good morning, everyone. So glad to be here, and good to see you all again virtually. On behalf of the writing team, I'm happy to have this document this far along. We really feel like we've gotten so much wonderful and amazing feedback from you all, and have made those revisions. And we're really looking forward to getting more of that today and tomorrow on 10 chapters. It's pretty amazing to think that we're going to do 10 chapters in 2 days, but I know that we have a good schedule and we can stick to it. Regarding specifically chapters 3, 4, and 5, just want to point out these are the progressions chapters. And when the writing team initially convened, we had sort of thought about these chapters first as a new idea for this framework, and so we appreciate the feedback that we've gotten on those chapters so far, and we feel like we've really addressed the feedback from you all as well as the public comments that we were directed to address also. Chapter 3 specifically, which is on number sense, has lots of more references to various related resources, such as Jeff Zweier's work, and it's had several adjustments made for English learners. Chapter 4, which is exploring, discovering, and reasoning with and about mathematics, which is SMPs 3, 7, and 8, We also addressed lots of comments from you all as well as public comments and made many English learner adjustments throughout that chapter as well. And then chapter 5, data science, has had extensive revisions based on public comments, especially to K-8, and the 9-12 revisions are still in process. There was many of those to be made, but the team has made pretty good progress, and we will continue to do so even after this meeting. So again, we really look forward to getting feedback from you all on those 3 chapters and to a productive 2 days. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the writing team. And now we'll turn it over to Constantino so that we can get our directions for a small group.
Thank you, Director Coates and Dr. Lindemann. Okay, so now we will move into our preparation for the final reads for the small group discussions on chapters 3, 4, and 5. Just a quick note, the final read, just to reiterate to a certain extent what Director Coates mentioned previously, but the final reads of a chapter are intended to help the CFCC members provide final recommendations that improve the document as a whole. Feedback should address the draft framework in 3 areas: cohesiveness, continuity, and alignment to the guidelines. Thank you for submitting your recommendations in those areas. So the review should focus on the big picture issues, relying on questions such as, where does this chapter fit effectively within the larger framework as a whole? Where does this chapter support continuity within the larger framework? Which aspects of the chapter fulfill requirements outlined in the guidelines, and where can these be strengthened? The review includes both small group and whole group discussions once again, and the Google Docs that have been shared with you this morning include now the consensus documents for these 3 chapters. Anybody wishing to access those documents, the bit.ly address on the screen will take you, including members of the public, to view only Google documents where you can see the recommendations that have been submitted. Are there any questions? Members of the public, you are once again invited to view the proceedings in the small groups via the Zoom links that we will share on the screen shortly, and again that you can request via the Math Framework mailbox. And we will leave that information posted as we progress into the small groups. Okay, small groups final reads, chapter 3, number sense, chapter 4, exploring, discovering, and reasoning with and about mathematics, and chapter 5, data science. Our groups remain the same as they have been for several meetings now. So I'll just leave that up briefly.
And while we pause to look at the groupings, I just wanted to also acknowledge that IQC Commissioner Yolanda Munoz is also with us and will be joining the small group breakouts as well. Thank you, Commissioner Munoz, for joining us.
Great, thank you, thank you. Okay, so there are small groups. Once again, the protocols for your interactions in the small groups, you will be using the reactions features, which include the yes and no, of course, and the raise hand. We will be using the thumbs up in the whole group, not in the small groups, but there are the reactions buttons that you will be using. Okay, so we are now ready. Here are the breakout groups or links for the alpha, beta, and delta rooms. Again, if you still do not have these links, please send us an email to the Math Framework mailbox and we'll provide these to you. And we will see you in a couple of minutes then in the small breakout rooms. Thank you.
Call.
Ade Spiegler. Lena Bradshaw.
Here.
Aaron Fraser. Lori Fryermuth.
Here.
Lori Fury,
Here.
Lindsay Gatfield,
Here.
Crystal Gomez,
Here.
Janet Hollister,
Here.
Lisa Hogerman,
Here.
Stephanie Holloway,
Here.
Andrew Huffaker,
Here.
Janie Kim,
Here.
Rebecca Pariso,
Here.
Christina Rubalcava,
Here.
Theodore Sagun, Bernadette Salgarino,
Here.
Cole Sampson,
Here.
Rosa Saratore, Diane Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Denise, will you confirm the total number of committee members present at this time?
Yes, just give me one moment. We had a couple log in while I was doing roll.
Okay, sorry, I'm here. I was having issues getting in.
There are 17.
Great, thank you, Denise. All right, and with that, we are ready to begin the whole group discussion on chapters 3, 4, and 5. Over to our co-chairs, Diane and Lori. I believe Lori this morning?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. So it looks like we don't have a ton to discuss. So the first comments we're looking to discuss are comments 4 and 5 on chapter 3. Cole, these were your comments, and I know you were in our group. I think it was you wanted to make a change to them, is why we highlighted them.
Yeah, I just had a moment of not thinking, and it should be table of contents, not appendix.
And I think that, yeah, for both of them. Okay. I'll ask if there's further discussion on this. Okay, so we'll go ahead and vote for number 4 first. We'll just go ahead and do it procedurally. We'll go ahead and do number 4 first, and then number 5.
We have 18 yes.
Okay, and then wait to them to clear the vote.
Consensus?
Okay, and number 5.
We have 18 yes.
Okay.
Consensus.
Okay, and that takes us to number 12. I believe, Lindsay, this is your comment. I didn't know if you had anything to add before the vote.
So my team just wanted me to clarify what I meant by this, and in the text it says that the teacher referred or used the ELD standards for planning, and then on the next page is a chart with like a reference to the ELD expectations. And so I just wanted them in the text to say, like, as seen on next page, or to introduce the chart by just having a label to what it is.
Okay. Okay, so maybe we'll add, would you be comfortable, Lindsay, if we add writer's discussion, add label to chart, or mention
Yes.
chart in narrative?
Yeah, writer's discretion is fine.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, if we could go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Consensus.
Okay, so that takes us down to comment number 22, which are our additional comments. So the first comment refers to comment number 1. Erin, I believe this is your addition. Is there anything you would like to add to what we're seeing?
Nope, I think it's fine.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and vote. Okay, Dr. Early? Katie?
Yes.
Would you like to?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Off. Okay, so my question is really funny, but I thought I understood it last time we met, and I do not. With regard to using consistent format for citing the content standards, people have asked us to do that, which makes sense. But the format they're asking for is confusing me because I wonder whether people are talking about the format shown in the California standards or the format shown in the national level Common Core state standards. I wondered if somebody would like to clarify that for me specifically. In this chapter, I made a note on line 391. There's a reference to a particular 4th grade standard. I wondered if somebody would like to give me specific directions on how they want that cited so I can be consistent. I thought I had it correctly, and apparently it's not what people want.
Okay.
So the line was 391. I'll get there myself.
Okay. I know, Cole, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know that you had, and I believe it was Lena or Christina as well, had brought this up earlier. Would you mind speaking on that?
Please.
So I know that in our last time we talked about the grade level specific chapters, we had written it out. And so like on 4, I think the only thing that's missing there is like the letter between the NBT. I think it's like .B.4.
Okay, thank you, Cole.
I think, yeah.
That's not how the California standards show it when I refer to their document, but it is how the national level Common Core state standards are represented. So it seemed weird to me to be doing a non-California thing. I'm happy to do it anyway, but I didn't see it in the California documents.
Okay. Christina, did you want to chime in?
Please.
Yeah, so I think that you're correct that in the California document, they don't refer to cluster levels, but most of the support materials teachers are using do. So a lot of their curriculum, if they're using any of the Achieve the Core, like coherence map to map standards, they do refer to it. And it also just helps them to find, should I be looking at the first cluster or the second cluster within this domain?
I was guessing that that was the intention, that it had to do with clusters. So my only other question on that, in that regard, is that I have to find an example, but among the standards, there are instances where there's only one cluster. Do we still refer to that as A, if there's only one cluster within a particular standard area?
Yes.
That's what I needed. Thank you all. We're going to be internet or national level, not California level citations here. Okay, thank you.
Bernadette, did you have something to add to this discussion?
Yeah, I just would like to, we had this discussion last time, Katie, and I remember that for consistency in the SBAC document as well, because that's how they reference some of the specific substandards underneath a certain cluster of standards. That's why we were advocating for the lowercase to be more specific. So yes, they're going national.
Yeah. That's all I really needed. So you will see that not all of those have been switched because there was that confusion remaining, but it's easy to fix. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for chiming in, and thank you for remembering. Okay, so let's go back to comment number 22. We need to take a vote. And remember, a yes vote moves it to the writers, and no vote turns it red. So we're looking at comment number 22.
We have 18 yes.
Consensus?
Okay. All right, we're looking at comment number 23 from Beta Group. I'll give everybody a moment to read this. And then if anyone would like to speak to this comment. Okay, Lori?
It's becoming clear that with assets-based language, changing anywhere that the document says English learner to multilingual learner would be beneficial for all the readers. As we talked about this in our group, we thought that that switch would be confusing without some language to clarify. And so at the beginning of the chapters where there's a note to the reader about they and them, we thought it would be helpful to have a description about the shift from multilingual or from English learner to multilingual learner, and also in the glossary.
Okay. All right. Any other comments on this? All right. If we could go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Consensus.
Okay. Number 24. Would anyone like to speak from Beta Group to speak about number 24? Okay, Diane?
Thank you. I wasn't exactly sure where this comment went, but I added it in here because comment 23 addresses the entire document, not just chapter 3. And comment 24 is the same thing. That letter had some statements and then some resources that applied to the entire document. So I just wanted to be clear that it's not just a chapter 3 suggestion.
Okay. So do we need to add that to the comment? Dr. Lindemann, would you like to speak?
Yes, I guess I'd just like to ask that the CFCC provide us with the specifics they would like from letters like we've done in the past in the actual comments here, right, in the consensus comment document that comes to us. It looks like this one, or well, one of them is 5 pages and it's dozens of resources and things like that. So I would just really encourage the CFCC to give us specifics from those letters that they really like or want to highlight. That would be really helpful. Thank you. Oops, sorry.
Okay. All right, Diane?
Why don't I go ahead and withdraw it for now, and then over lunch I'll find the specific lines.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Not as long as there's no objections to removing it, we'll go ahead and table that until later. Okay, and then number 25. Cole, this was yours. If you'd like to speak, please go ahead.
Yeah, so this is really more probably on the production end, like when we get ready to finalize, but just making sure that like the appendices across the chapters are consistent, or not appendices, gosh, the table of contents across the chapters are consistent. Because some of them would go like to a grade level and maybe like a header and a grade level, and then some of them would go header, grade level, and then even the task level. So there was just some inconsistencies as far as how deep that would get in the table of contents.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Then we'll go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Okay.
Consensus.
All right. Number 26, Bernadette, that's you. Would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Lori. This is for consistency in this particular chapter as well. I have noticed that we have an example of math talks for every grade band, but none from high school. And I would love to see a math talks also for 9 through 12 grade band.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? All right, let's go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Consensus.
Okay, perfect. Done with chapter 3. Congratulations. 1 down, 9 to go. All right. Sorry if I'm giddy. Fall winter break is around the corner, so I'm feeling good. So we're going to start with chapter 4 then. Dr. Lindeman, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, sorry, just before we move on, I just wanted to go back to Cole's comment about the standards. And I think Christina had mentioned that, yes, it's in the grade level comments. If just whoever is maybe over lunch or something, somebody could drop that in here, that would just be one less thing to look for. We've tracked it down. It's in the grade level ones, but it's comment 25 out of TK5. I just wanted folks to, whoever's putting the Google Doc together, if you could just put that under, I don't know if we need to revote again, but if you could put that under Cole's comment, because it's already passed through, or if that could just be done.
Constantino?
Yeah, let me just be clear. Which comment was that, Dr.?
I think, keep scrolling up, Constantino. I believe that it's one of the very first comments. There it is, comment 3 from Cole. See comment 25 out of TK5 from the November 3rd CFCC meeting.
Okay.
Right, and it's just got several bullets to it. We went through all the different configurations there, and so thank you.
Right, I remember that. That was pretty extensive. So, okay, got it.
Thank you.
Okay, Christina, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just curious if the examples of how to write the high school standards also lived in the TK5, if we had that discussion all at once, or if we came back to it at the high school chapter.
I think we did come back to it at the high school chapter, Christina. I think your recollection is good there.
I think that is correct as well. We would have to confirm that, but I think that's correct.
We did. We applied it to all.
With some high school specifics in the high school chapter, right?
Right, because their conceptual categories is a different scheme. So maybe.
Do we need to augment then this comment before?
I think so. So see comment 25 there, and then I can do some hunting and find that for the high school one as well. I can't send it in the chat. Should I just email it to you, Constantino?
Yeah, just go ahead and text it to me, and we'll make sure we'll come back to it and put it in here as well.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. We want to make sure that we're making your life easy too. We want to make sure it's consistent. It's what we want, but also make it easy for you as well.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're looking at number 4, chapter 4, comment number 1. Cole, I know this is yours. Did you still want to withdraw this comment?
Yeah, just because I feel like Janet really gave a lot more specific on how we could make that happen in her 2 comments.
Okay. Any objections to the people that highlighted it for it being withdrawn? Janet?
I'm just going to say that my comments are in so the comments 2 and 3 are more specific? Is that what you're saying, Cole?
That I felt like you gave some very specific ways to do that.
Okay.
Mine was more just broad.
Okay, then that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, guys. All right, so we'll just withdraw comment number 1. Okay, and that will take us down to comment number 4. Bernadette? Did you want to speak to this, or do you think it speaks for itself?
Just a little bit. So again, for consistency, I've noticed a snapshot for each grade band, but missing for 9 through 12. And I would love to see a snapshot of that as well to be consistent in this chapter.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments? Then we'll go ahead and vote.
We have 17 yes and 1 I can live with it.
Consensus.
All right. Well done. Chapter 4 in the books. Okay. And on to chapter 5. And we'll start with comment number 6, which is part of our additional comments. Okay. And we'll start with number 6. So any comment on number 6? Okay. Any comments on number 6? I'm sorry, I was reading it. I know that it is also making sure which other ones were the same. So if there's no one that would like to speak to number 6, if we could go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Consensus.
Okay, so moving on to number 7. Okay. All right, Bernadette?
I think we have number 7 is also under Delta number 11. And in our group, Lori, we added some language that says at writer's discretion, hopefully that this particular comment will be encompassed in all grade bands. And so just to make it stronger as a message to this chapter.
Right. Thank you for reminding me. Yes, because they gave a specific line number and our group had an issue that the line number was only in the high school, where this could be used in all the grade bands. Bernadette, that was our conversation. Correct?
Yes, Lori, thank you.
Okay. So just to kind of summarize, 7 and 11 are the same comment, except that we added at writer's discretion where it would be placed, so that it could be this concept would be continuous throughout the grade bands and not just here at the high school grade band. So I'm not exactly sure how to proceed from here. So we need to kind of choose between 7 and 11 because they would be the same comment but just contradictory. So would anyone from Beta Group like to speak? Diane?
And Christina, I can't remember if it was you or I who suggested this. I know we both talked about it, but I'm fine with us withdrawing this one and then us voting on number 11, if that's okay with you.
Yes, I think it was you that put it down. That's why I didn't say anything, but yeah, I'm okay with that as well.
Okay, so unless there's an objection from anyone in Beta Group, we'll go ahead and withdraw this comment in lieu of number 11. Okay, and then number 8. Any speakers on number 8? Okay, if we'd like to go ahead and vote.
We have 17 yes and 1 I can live with it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving on to number 9. I think that this goes back to the Stephanie, if you don't mind, I'll just say it goes back to the idea of the names and not just changing the names, but also making sure that there is a variety of cultural names throughout the document. Hopefully, Stephanie, if I didn't get that right, you'll correct me.
Yeah, it was kind of stemming off of comments 4 and 5.
Any other comments on this one? Okay, then we'll go ahead and vote.
we're waiting on one more vote. Lori? We have 18 yes.
Consensus.
Okay. All right. Stephanie, would you be okay withdrawing comment 10 since it was passed previously?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Comment 11 was the one we talked about above. Number 7, just with writer's discretion as to where to place the comment. Okay. Would anyone like to speak to it? Okay, then we'll just go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Okay.
Consensus.
And then I will withdraw number 12 as it was passed earlier. So congratulations, folks. We are now 3 chapters in. Great job, everyone. Thank you for your thoughtfulness. Yes, Bernadette?
My question is, when, and Diane, this is for you as well. I know we reddened 24 referring to CEL LMU resources, and I wonder when will we come back and discuss that?
I believe Diane mentioned she would look at it at lunch and bring back some of those comments. They can also be, and then we can also still submit public comments after we are done with this committee's work. Dr. Lindeman?
I think it seems like chapter 1 might be a great place to start. Maybe Diane with those comments, because they are very general, and a lot of them are wonderful resources to point out on issues of equity and addressing that. So at least from the one longer statement. But chapter 1 might be a great place to start with.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So then going back to that, Dr. Lindeman, I would like to propose that we will vote on that so that it's not read.
Well, what'll happen, Bernadette, is they're asking for more specific. They're not asking to leave out the public comment. They're asking for specific direction within the public comment. Like, what resources do you want included? What lines? What they want us to be more specific. So they're not asking us to eliminate the public comment. They're just asking us to be more specific as to what pieces of that public comment we want. And he's asking for us to do that in chapter 1.
And so with Dr. Lindeman's recommendation to start it with chapter 1, that I would just like this to be formal, that we voted on it, and chapter 1 is a good start. I think my point is that this has to be, formally adopted and voted on, that it's in there as a public document, that we did not say no to this one. We said yes, and we now have a recommendation as where to start.
But the comment that was recommended, if you remember correctly, was just the whole public comment, like just nothing specific. Diane, I'll let you go ahead since this was your recommendation.
Right. So I the way I understood Dr. Lindeman's comment is, because this letter and the statement and the resources refer to the entire document, rather than trying to get it done at lunchtime today, and then we're not coming back to this chapter because we've finished it, rather than put the suggestions here, to put the comments and suggestions in when we consider chapter 1 tomorrow, and we'll vote on them then.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay, so does that answer your question, Bernadette? We're not throwing it out, they're asking for more specific direction in that. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Janet, did you have a comment?
So I have a question for Bernadette, which is, do you see something in this chapter that you would like to highlight now that we could augment that and say these specific comments are really important for this chapter. So do you have some of those suggestions now that we could be more specific now? Or I don't know whether you do or not. But
I haven't looked at it intently, Janet. That's why I just don't want this to be lost along the way, because we are leaving chapters 3, 4, and 5, but definitely bringing this back again for chapter 1 or probably even chapter 2, because that one also has a lot about teaching equity for engagement that this has to surface.
So let me ask this, Constantino. I know we are quite a bit ahead of schedule. Would it be possible to take, say, 15 minutes right now to read through that public comment and identify anything that the group feels would complement these 3 chapters at this time, and then we could reconvene, say, in 15 minutes and add more comments as we see fit? Would that be possible?
Absolutely. This is your time. Yeah, this is the committee's time, and absolutely.
Okay. So can I just, Christina, you have a quick comment?
I think you just took care of it. I was going to say there were some specifics about math talks and thinking flexibly about number that I thought would be appropriate. So.
Okay. So how about this? Why don't we take, let's say, the next 15, let me first ask this. Is the group in agreement that this is how they'd like to proceed, to take 15 to 20 minutes at this moment to look through the document and add anything from that document into these 3 chapters at this time? Can I just a yes vote or a no vote if that's something you would like to consider?
We have 17 yes and 1 I can live with it.
Okay, so my computer clock is not correct, so I'm going to look at my phone real quick. Okay, so I have 11:08 right now. How about if we reconvene at 11:25, and we'll start there at 11:25 and see what we would like to add to the from that letter or any public comment letter back into these 3 chapters. Okay. So we'll go ahead and get to work on that. Christina?
I was just going to suggest that maybe when we're finished reading through, we can give a thumbs up in case we are done with more time or less time.
Perfect. Okay, how about a thumbs up when you're finished? Okay, so, all right, so everybody, let's go ahead and take a look at public comment. And I'm just going to say any public comment because I don't want anybody to, any group that has submitted public comment to feel overlooked. Go ahead and take a look at public comment, and then we can go ahead and add to these chapters. so it looks like I have a thumbs up from everyone. So what I was thinking is going ahead and let's start back at the top. So we'll start with chapter 3, and then we'll move to chapter 4, and then to chapter 5, and that way we're proceeding in order. So starting with chapter 3, does anyone have, please raise your hand if there is any additional comments you would like placed under chapter 3. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move if so. Please make sure you're, unless, I'm sorry, I'm not scrolled all the way. I'm sorry, Christina. I wasn't scrolled to the top, sorry.
That's okay. So again, from beta group, or whole group is fine. The letter that's referenced in comment 24.
Okay.
The resources and statements part, there are two that I feel would fit nicely in this chapter.
Okay.
They're found on page 4 of that letter. And it's just called Resources for Math Framework Revision. And it is the number talks building numerical reasoning. I don't know if we want to copy and paste that because there's actual links to the resource.
And I don't know how that works, so I'll let,
Just give me 1 second. I have to find the right LMU letter and then the right page. Just give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the correct one, Christina? In terms of the projection?
And it's on page 4, where it starts at the professional learning. So keep scrolling and it should be, there we go. So number talks building numerical reasoning. So that one, and there's one more on the same page, Math Talk 101.
And do you have a specific place, Christina, in there you'd like to see that, or do you just want to leave it at writer's discretion?
Writer's discretion.
Okay. Janet, I see your hand. I'm just going to let Jennifer catch up with comments, and then I'll be right with you.
I just had a question for Christina.
Okay. Okay, please, Ben, go ahead.
Okay. So Christina, what do you want them to do with these resources? So they can look at it, they can open it, but what's the action that you want them to take?
So perhaps including as a resource for teachers, there's that list of resources. So including those as resources for teachers to access for further learning.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. You took the words right out of my mouth. And then, Jen, if we could just add part of to add to resource list at writer's discretion, location at writer's discretion. Would that be fair, Christina?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so looking at comment number 27. Okay, so Christina, if you could take one more look at that to make sure that captures what you were thinking.
I would maybe just add where it says to be used at writer's discretion, I would say as resources for teachers.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion on the proposed comment number 27? Okay. Then if we could go ahead and vote to either yes to move it forward or no to not move it forward?
We have 18 yes.
Consent.
Okay. Thank you. So I'm going to stick with chapter 3 and ask if there's any more additions to chapters 3. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the additional comments for chapter 4. If you have additional comments for chapter 4, could you please raise your hand? Okay, Christina?
So from the same letter, in the same section, and almost the same comment, I would like to include the fostering math practices as a resource for teachers.
That one right there?
Yes.
Okay.
And the same thing, just provide as a possible resource for teachers that want to dig into addressing specific math practices.
Okay. And then I would just say not a are you okay with the word possible resource, or do you want it as a resource?
We can take out possible, so provide as a resource.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, any comments on this comment number 5? Okay, so then we'll go ahead and vote.
We have 18 yes.
Okay. Anything else that anybody would like to see added to chapter 4? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to chapter 5. So this will be the next comment will be number 13. Would anyone like any resources from any of the public comment added to chapter 5? Last call. So since no one has said anything, has raised their hand, I'm just going to give a last call for anything that you would like to see added to chapters 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So I just want to, just for clarity's sake and to make sure we vote, if you have anything you'd like to add, can you vote? Put a yes. If you're fine with the way we stand right now, can you vote no? No new comments. I just want to make sure everybody has a chance to be heard. If you have no new comments, vote no. If you have a new comment, please vote yes.
We have 18 no.
Okay, so there's no new comments. So Constantino, at this time, I'll turn it back over to you for scheduling and things and so forth.
Great. Thank you, Lori, and thank you, committee. Great work. Great work. I think I will turn it over to Director Coates, who will have an update with regard to the return. We'll break for lunch now, and what we'll do is we'll have an extended lunch since we have that opportunity. But for the exact time, Director Coates.
Hi, Constantino. Let's return at 1 p.m.
Great. All right. So the gift of time, we have an extended lunch due to your great work. And so we will see you back at 1 o'clock in the main room. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, perfect. And we're not going to do our roll call just at this moment. We don't have a consensus discussion coming up just yet, so we'll do it a little bit later. But for now, what we'll do is go ahead and do our CDE and Writers Comment. We hope that you were able to enjoy lunch. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Lindeman to start us off, and then CDE will follow.
Hi, folks. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so the comments that I'd like to make, I guess, about chapters 2 and 12 from the writing team are that we really worked on strengthening linkages between chapters 2 and 12, knowing that what we, the publishers, the information for publishers, we wanted to be strongly linked to chapter 2, which is our pedagogy chapter, Teaching for Equity and Engagement. So, we've created more of those linkages explicit, or made more of those linkages explicit. And then the chapter 2 specific highlights, we worked on connecting more to culturally relevant pedagogy and using that terminology, as well as connecting more to issues related to identity in that chapter. And then regarding chapter 12, CDE and the writing team were able to meet on multiple occasions to work through the requested revisions to that chapter. And we have created with CDE a version which both parties feel addresses the CFCC's concerns and recommendations that were made at the October CFCC meeting, as well as the state laws and regulations that fulfill the purposes of that chapter. So I hope that all makes sense. And then I think Constantino or Shanine, are you going to talk next?
Sure, and I'll just reiterate for chapter 12 that the purpose of the instructional materials chapter is primarily directed to publishers of instructional materials, and it does have certain technical requirements, including the explanation of the evaluation criteria. And the evaluation criteria is what's used by publishers as they develop their K through 8 and instructional materials, including Algebra 1 and Integrated Mathematics 1 programs. And so just to note that the evaluation criteria for the state review are quantitative and can be verified by evidence in the materials. Therefore, qualitative terms such as engaging or effective and exemplary are not considered in the state level review, given that they are subjective and therefore are better suited for the local evaluation process. Also, just to note that the state review determines only if the criteria are met, including that 100% of the standards are covered in the materials, but it's not a ranking of materials or a determination of whether a specific program is going to be effective for a particular school or a particular district population. And so that's why it's pertinent that multiple options exist for districts to evaluate for their specific needs. So as Dr. Lindeman stated, following the October meeting, we were able to meet several times, and we have revised the draft chapter, and you'll have read that we've included updated criteria language that, again, we believe addresses the concerns, but also are introducing a new guidance section titled Publisher's Guide to the Mathematics Framework. And that section is designed to guide publishers of the instructional materials and drawing specific attention to the issues of equity and the particular emphasis in this framework as they begin to design their instructional programs for state approval. And so unlike the evaluation criteria, the publisher's guide can include those qualitative terms. And so you'll also note that the publisher's guide references several major features of the 2021 framework, such as the drivers of investigation, the content connections, the big ideas, authentic, integrated. So also we ensure that there's cross-referencing throughout in multiple instances to ensure fidelity to the framework when those instructional materials are being designed. And you'll also note a new criterion 2.5 under program organization. So as you review today, there may be some recommendations offered that may be a good fit, a better fit potentially for publisher's guide rather than criterion. But all of this together, we feel that what we're presenting to you collectively is complete and responsive to the goal that we have a strong body of instructional materials submitted to the State Board of Education when that time comes. So are there any questions regarding chapters 2 and 12 before we get our directions for our small group work? Okay. Then Constantino, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Director Coates. Okay, and with that, thank you, Dr. Lindemann, as well. We are preparing then to move into our next small group breakout, this time on Chapter 2, Teaching for Equity and Engagement, and Chapter 12, Instructional Materials. Our groups, once again, remain the same. I'll just leave this up briefly. Okay, and following this breakout, we will have a break, and so we'll have this slide up after the break, after the small groups. But here are the links to the small groups for members of the public who wish to join us and don't have the links just yet. You can send us an email to the Math Framework mailbox, and we'd be happy to provide these links to you. The Google Docs for these two chapters have been included in the link, and so there is the bit.ly. And with that, we look forward to seeing you in a couple of minutes in the small groups. Thank you. Everybody, I have that it is 2:35. We are wrapping up our activities for today, and our one of our last remaining activities for today is the whole group consensus discussion on the chapters that were just discussed in the small groups, chapter 2, Teaching for Equity and Engagement, and Chapter 12, Instructional Materials. Before I turn it over to our co-chairs, Denise, will you take roll?
Addie Spiegler.
Here.
Lena Bradshaw.
Here.
Erin Fraser.
Here.
Lori Firemuth. Lori Fury.
Here.
Lindsay Gatfield.
Here.
Crystal Gomez.
Here.
Janet Hollister.
Here.
Lisa Hogerman.
Here.
Stephanie Holloway.
Here.
Andrew Huffaker. Rainey Kim. Rebecca Pariso.
Here.
Christina Rubalcava.
Here.
Theodore Sagun.
Here.
Bernadette Salgarino.
Here.
Cole Sampson.
Here.
Rosa Saratori. Diane Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
And Denise, can you tell me the total number of Math CFCC members?
I have 15.
15, thank you. And we did receive messages from different committee members letting us know that for one reason or another, they had different scheduling conflicts this afternoon. So we have a total of 15. We'll keep that in mind as the votes are made. Just a quick comment before I turn it over back to our co-chairs. We will do public comment at 3:30 or no earlier than 3:30 so that so that our members of the public can stay tuned and be aware of that. Okay, and with that, let us get into the whole group discussion. I will turn it back over, I think this time to Diane.
Correct. Thank you, and good afternoon. We are going to go through the whole group discussion for chapters 2 and 12. So we will start with chapter 2. And of the comments that were submitted ahead of the meeting, there were none that were highlighted yellow, but there are new comments. So we will start at comment number 13. And the Alpha group had one additional comment that was added. And is there anyone who wants to speak to this comment? So wait till it's up there on the screen. And Janet, go ahead.
So I'll just say I suggested that we add this. NCTM is our professional organization, and what they're saying fits right into the introduction of this chapter. We went back and forth. Somebody suggested we also look at the TOTOS one, but I just said because the NCTM one was briefer, it might make more sense to include that or some reference to it in the introduction.
Thank you. And Christina?
We actually had a very similar comment in 14. We got a little more specific with feedback from Dr. Lindemann about how they might want to do that. So they're basically the same comment, but the thought was either doing it as a pull quote in a text box or to start off the chapter with the quote and then go into the introduction.
Thank you. And Janet?
So then, Christina, I didn't know what, when it says paragraph 2, what that meant. So does it make sense that I just withdraw ours and vote on yours? That might make sense. So
yeah, that makes sense. We can maybe put the NCTM in there where it says paragraph 2 in our comment.
If you could just add that, then it makes sense. So I would suggest we withdraw comment 13 and amend 14.
All right, thank you. And so to amend 14 after paragraph 2, it should say the NCTM position statement on access and equity. Okay.
Yes,
I see
please.
Nodding heads. I'm not sure who's doing the typing this round.
Kyle, are you on the line? Richard. I think we might have lost Kyle.
Kyle had a technical difficulty, I believe.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you, Richard. Are you able to step in?
Yeah, I am. Give me one sec. Okay, can you guys repeat what you want to have happen here?
Yeah, so in comment 13, if you would copy the part of the sentence that says the NCTM position statement on access and equity, and then that goes after the words paragraph 2 in line 1 of comment 14. That's right. All right. And Bernadette, go ahead.
Janet, I know you were thinking of the NCSM TOTOS position paper as well. And I also recommend that besides the NCTM, to include the NCSM TOTOS as well in this particular component, because that speaks to mathematics education through the lens of social justice. And so this being teaching for equity and engagement, and we have some components within the chapter that speaks to teaching mathematics for social justice, that having that be included in the intro could be a wonderful opportunity to highlight throughout this chapter.
And also, if you take a look at comment 16, it talks about that TOTOS position paper and suggests that it go in the section on teaching for social justice. So that would be suggesting it in 2 different places, which is fine if that's what we want to do. All right. I see no more hands. So first I need to ask, is there anyone who objects to comment number 13 being withdrawn? All right, there are no hands there. So could you please vote whether you would like comment 14 to go to the writers?
We have 16 yes.
Consensus?
All right, and comment 15 looks like it has a part A and a part B. So if you would please take a look at those, and then we will vote on them separately. And Lori.
Sorry, I think I'm having a delay on my end with tech. So I would like for everybody to just double check the ELD standards that I suggested would go with the math practices, please.
All right, is there anyone who wants to speak to that or who has found a discrepancy that maybe we need to address before we vote? Janet?
So I'm not familiar enough with the ELD standards to be able to pull them out. I'm just wondering if Lori could explain how she saw them connected, which would be helpful.
Okay. And I think Lori has a delay on her end.
Yeah, I'm turning off my camera to see if that helps.
Okay,
so
we can hear you.
That's good. For math practice 1, it's persevering in problem solving, and oftentimes that includes collaboration and working through with partners. Also interpretation, which is the collaboration is part 1A, and interpreting the information, listening, reading closely, evaluating, that's part B or part 1B. And then producing, making expressed ideas, composing, writing, that's part C. So 1C. So part 1, A, B, and C to me makes a lot of sense for math practices 1 and 3. Practice 3 is the creating arguments and evaluating other arguments. And then math practice 2 is, the way that I saw that is it's more about the patterns and putting things together in context and out of context. And I'm not entirely sure that goes very well with part 2C, but part 2C is connecting and condensing ideas.
All right, thank you. And Christina?
I just found a West Ed document that actually does some of that crosswalking. It has the ELD parts broken down, and then down below it shows connections to standards for mathematical practice. I can send that to the mailbox if that would be a helpful resource.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Do we want to add a note in there? So do we want to add a note to number 15 that you said Ed Trust West, or was it West Ed?
West Ed.
Okay, thank you. Great, thank you. All right, and I think actually the way this is written, we don't have to consider it as 2 different items. until the typing's done. There we go. All right, any other comments on number 15? All right, would you please vote now?
There are 16 yes.
Consensus?
All right, and comment 16, I believe that was one I added, and since we already added it in comment 14, I'm happy to withdraw number 16. Any objection to that comment being withdrawn? All right, we will move on to Delta Group's comments, starting with number 17. And anyone wish to speak to that? Christina?
Diane, the previous comment 16 was not the same as 14. 14 was the one about NCTM, and your comment 16 was the one about TOTOS that we did want to include, because that was the one Bernadette wanted to see.
Oh, I thought that we did add the TOTOS comment in someplace else, but you're right, we did not. All right, thank you for that.
Thank you, Christina.
All right, so, yeah. All right, any other discussion around number 16? Lori?
This is just for clarification. Are you asking that the whole document be included, part of the document, or it to be referenced? I just, for clarity's sake.
Yeah, page 2, a reference to the Teaching for Equity in Math, the TOTOS document. So it could be a link or it could be a reference to it.
I'm just concerned because the comment, the way it's written, says suggest the document be included in the section. So I just want to make sure that's very clear to the writers. What?
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other comments? All right, please vote on number 16.
We have 16 yes.
Consensus.
All right, and comment number 17 refers us back to comment number 8. And any questions or clarifications or explanation for this one? And I see no hands, so we will vote on number 17, please.
There are 16 yes.
Consensus.
And comment 18. Anyone who wishes to speak to this or needs clarification? All right, can you please vote on number 18?
There is 16 yes.
Consensus.
And comment number 19 refers us back to a public comment document. And I'll give you a second to find it in the document. Any questions or comments on this one?
I just want to state that there are two, at least two CEL LMU so the date might be necessary for reference sake. There's a 12-2
right.
and a 12.
Somebody from Delta Group, or it looks like, Lori, this might be yours. Do you remember if it came from the document?
It says the chapter 2 one. It says chapter 2, so it's the 12-14. I'll go ahead and add it.
Okay, thank you. Any other question or comment on this one? All right, we'll vote on number 19, please.
There is 16 yes.
Consensus.
Right, and number 20. Any questions or comments on this one? Stephanie.
So that was my comment about the 4-4s task. I felt that that task, as it is currently in the written in the framework, it doesn't provide a lot of guidance, and it's kind of a difficult task for elementary teachers to kind of have their be their first experience using an open-ended task. They can find a lot of frustration if they have not anticipated or gone through the task first, or if their students aren't familiar with consensus building or number talks or communicating with each other in regards to math. So I thought to either find a different task as kind of an opening for teachers to try open tasks, or give a lot more guidance for teachers as they move towards open tasks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Dr. Bowler.
Could we have some discussion about 4-4s, because I've seen it used so many times and people find it the easiest task to engage students in. You know, you ask kids what numbers they can make out of 4-4s and they're on it and they love it, and they if we're going to replace that task, could we choose what task we would replace it with, because that's just been a really good and easy task for teachers in our experience.
And Stephanie?
So I was just referencing specifically elementary teachers, because I know on the UCube site it's recommended for 3rd and up. So I've actually worked with teachers that have tried that task, and maybe it was just a lack of anticipation on their part. That's why I was suggesting maybe if we do leave it there, that's great. Let's provide a little more guidance for them as they launch it. So yeah, that was my only thought, because I would hate to deter elementary teachers from using open tasks because they weren't guided into it in an appropriate way.
Thank you. And Janet, and then Crystal.
So I'll just say that I've seen 9th grade students have a lot of trouble with this, just getting started with teachers that are not familiar with open tasks. So I think that just that little bit of guidance ahead of time of how to prep for it would be helpful.
Thank you. Crystal?
So if you look up further in the framework in lines 311, in that paragraph, the next paragraph, it does talk about planning for such teaching means that teachers are attending to the ways they can support. And then the next paragraph talks about anticipating the strategies students might use and the challenges and confusions they're likely to encounter. So are you guys looking for something specific to this task, or is that enough?
All right. Crystal, and then Stephanie.
I think that was just Crystal that just spoke. Yeah, so
sorry.
I was thinking specifically for that task to let teachers know, maybe to even work with it themselves. before. And on the website, it's used at the beginning of the year. So I think what may have happened in my experience with other teachers is they're using it at the beginning of the year, and perhaps those students that are coming to them, they just haven't had a lot of experience with that consensus building. And so they're not sure how to go about it with students. Number one, because they may not be comfortable and speaking out in terms of math because they just haven't had that type of mathematical experience. So yeah, just guidance specifically for that task, I think would be great. And I think a lot of it lies in the teachers just working through that task themselves so they know what types of questions to use with students as they go about working with them in their groups and helping them build consensus and asking just the right types of questions. Because if they don't know where to go and they're trying to figure it out as they're trying to go through it with students, then I've seen teachers go oh no, I just can't do this type of task. I need to do, something more structured or whatever. So yeah, I think guidance specifically for that task, because it is a great task, would be great.
Thank you. And Lena?
Yeah, I was going to just say I've actually had teachers have actually used this task who are not math teachers and have done this with a group of students, actually incoming ninth graders for part of a special bridge program. And it was very important to have the teachers experience the 4-4s themselves. So, I do think it's doable, and just, working with teachers who are not math teachers, they were able to successfully implement this with their students. So maybe just as simple as for any open task or anything you're doing, like you got to, play with it yourself first as the teacher.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? Dr. Lindeman.
So I think Dr. Bowler lost connection, unfortunately, but I think she will be coming back, I hope. Just wanted to maybe mention that maybe including a couple of the anticipated responses, not listing out 30 of them or more, but just a couple might give the reader a chance to see what this looks like. I know, though, that it's meant to be an open task, right? So we really want to kind of stick to that. We're not trying to just, say it needs to look like this or that. I mean, that's that kind of goes against the grain of what open task is. But just a couple of here's a couple of responses, and then, teachers should work through it in advance and come up with maybe even a list for themselves so that they are not caught unawares. So.
Thank you. And Christina?
Sorry.
I believe that we've mentioned the 5 practices for orchestrating productive mathematics discussions, but this feels sort of appropriate for this section on when you're, going to launch an open task. Here are some practices that you would want to engage in as a teacher. So thinking about, selecting the task as sort of that practice 0, and then thinking about anticipating student responses. I think that would make a really nice launch into this. And then for any open task, that just gives teachers a frame for planning. What do I do before? What do I do during? How do I end the task and make connections to, what's going on next?
And actually that book is listed about a page and a half before this one. It's on page 11. And no more hands. All right. Let's go ahead and vote, please, on number 20.
We have 8 yes, 2 no, and 6 I can live with it.
We have consensus to move it forward.
Right, and comment 21 is much the same as the discussion we just had. It's just talking about a different page. And Cole, I think this one was yours. Oh, look, you already have your hand up. Go ahead.
And I actually would like to remove this. Thank you, Lindsay, for pointing me back. We got so caught up talking about 20 that didn't go deep enough on page 11. So I would go ahead and withdraw that if nobody objects.
All right. Any objections to that one? All right, there are none. So we will go on to comment 22. I'll give you a second.
Oh, thank you, Diane.
Yep, go ahead.
That's from the CEEL LMU public comment, and our group concur about what they mentioned, making teach towards social justice as being number one under this chapter.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, can you vote please on number 22?
We have 12 yes and 4 I can live with it.
Consensus?
All right, we will move on to our chapter number 12. And there are 2 yellow comments to discuss. So we'll start with comment number 2. And it looks like someone had a question or we needed clarification on this one. Lindsay, is that you? I think.
Yes, I wanted to withdraw this one.
Okay. So you want to withdraw the yellow highlighting or withdraw the comment?
I wanted to withdraw the comment. We had made it red in my group to withdraw.
Okay. Is there any objection to that? And there are no hands. All right. So we will move on to comment number 5. And anyone have questions or comments on number 5? Erin, go ahead.
I know that I had highlighted this one, and I just wanted some clarification. I'm not quite sure what you want to add here, because I'm not familiar with this YouTube that's included there.
And Stephanie?
So I had added that comment. It's on page 8, under number 6. And it's talking about providing students with opportunities to extend ideas and work in more depth. So in the video, it's Bill Daro speaking about the 4 levels of learning, and the highest level of learning being able to share or teach their knowledge with others. And he says it much more eloquently than I. So just to avoid that and kind of clarify what depth means versus giving more work. I know it does say depth there, but if they have the opportunity to share and teach with others, that will just strengthen their own knowledge. So I thought that would be a good addition.
Thank you. Anyone else? Cool, go ahead.
So now that I am hearing that, I'm wondering if instead of right there, Stephanie, if maybe this goes into like the publisher guidance at the end, you know, as we're calling out some of these terminologies, maybe putting depth there with some of these sources as opposed to one of the criterion.
I'm okay with that as well.
So instead of at line 211, Cole, your suggestion is to put it at the end of the document? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so like on page, like somewhere like on line or page 17 or 18, like in the publisher's guidance, maybe having a what do we mean by depth in this framework?
All right, and
hi, Diane. Constantino here. Sorry, just to clarify, Cole, are you suggesting moving that so rather to the publisher's guide? Yes, got it. Okay, thank you.
All right. And Stephanie, so you said you're okay with that, right? All right. So the comment the way it stands now, any more discussion on that one? Janet, go ahead.
So I think what Cole was saying is that to take the opportunity to define what depth is there. So I'm not sure what would be added to the publisher's guidance, but what I thought he said is that on page 17 or 18, define what depth means in regards to filled arrows for levels.
Yes, thank you, Janet.
All right.
And it still could have the reference to on page 17 or 18. But
in fact, it would be line 470.
Thank you. All right. So is that comment accurate the way it is now? Is there anyone who wants to change anything? All right. I see no hands, so we'll vote on number 5, please.
We have 13 yes and 3 I can live with it.
Consensus.
All right, we will move on to comment number 8, which is at lines 435 to 438. I think we already talked about this, correct? Maybe this is a question for the writers. I know we talked about it earlier, sort of in context of the entire document. Do you want more guidance here, or do you feel like you have enough? Oh, Cole, go ahead.
This is actually for how they label out the content connections, not the actual standard.
Oh, thank you.
And so in like chapter 1, they're labeled like CC1, CC2 with the names. And then in some of the grade level chapters and in this chapter, they're labeled out like just 1, 2, 3, 4 without that CC in front of it.
Got it. Thank you for helping me with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else? All right, we'll vote on number 8, please.
We have 16 yes.
Consensus.
All right, and I'll give you a second to read comment number 9. And Janet, go ahead.
did we skip voting on 6 and 7?
6 and 7, they weren't highlighted.
Oh, got it. Okay, sorry. I was like, hold on, what happened here? Okay.
Yeah, we're just in Delta because Alpha and Beta had no additional comments. All right, and Janet, okay, wasn't sure if you had your hand up for number 9. Anyone who wants to speak to number 9 or has a question on it? And there are no hands, so we'll vote on number 9, please.
We have 13 yes and 3 I can live with it.
Consensus.
Right, comment number 10, which comes from the same public comment, it looks like. Anyone who has a question or a comment on this one? There are no hands, so we'll vote on number 10, please.
We have 13 yes, and 3 I can live with it.
Consensus.
And comment number 11. Give you a second to read it. Any questions or comments on number 11? There are no hands, so we'll vote on number 11.
We have 13 yes, and 3 I can live with it.
Consensus.
And comment number 12. Anyone who has a question or a comment on this one? And no hands, so we'll vote on number 12, please.
We have 12 yes, and 4 I can live with it.
Consensus.
And comment number 13. Questions or comments on this one? And there are no hands on this one, so we'll vote please on number 13.
We have 14 yes, and 2 I can live with it.
Consensus.
All right. Very nicely done. Thank you. That is the end of the chapter 2 and 12 recommendations. So I will turn it back over to the CDE.
Great job indeed. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, committee members. Excellent work. 5 chapters down. Right, 5 more to go. Congratulations. I would like to check in with Director Coates at this point.
Hey, thank you. Excellent work and ahead of schedule. So we have public comment scheduled for 3:35. So we'll just take a quick break until 3:35, and then after public comment, we'll do a quick wrap up and we'll leave early for today. So return back to whole group at 3:35 for public comment.
Oops, sorry.
Turn it over to Constantino. Denise, will you do our final roll call for the day?
Eddie Spiegler.
Here.
Lena Bradshaw.
Here.
Aaron Fraser.
Here.
Lori Fryermuth.
Here.
Lori Fury.
Here.
Lindsay Gatfield.
Here.
Crystal Gomez.
Here.
Janet Hollister.
Here.
Lisa Hogerman.
Here.
Stephanie Holloway.
Here.
Andrew Huffaker.
Here.
Janie Kim. Rebecca Pariso.
Here.
Christina Rubalcava.
Here.
Theodore Sagun.
Here.
Bernadette Salgarino.
Here.
Cole Sampson.
Here.
Diane Wilson.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, so now we are ready to begin public comment. Members of the public, you are encouraged to make your comments by calling in to the number on the screen and by pressing *6 to be added to the queue. Once you're connected, we will acknowledge our commenters in the order that they called in. You will have 2 minutes for your comment, at which time we will announce time and move on to the next person. As always, please follow the rules of decorum and respect. You may also submit your comments in writing to the Math Framework mailbox as shown here. Written comments received during The meeting today and tomorrow will be provided to the Instructional Quality Commission for its consideration at its January 2021 meeting. The written public comments will not be read aloud. Before we start, we need to mention that there is a delay in the live stream. Therefore, we will allow a few seconds for that.
We do have 2 people ready.
Okay.
First caller, you may begin.
Hi, this is Manuel Buenrostro, Policy Associate at Californians Together. First of all, I just want to express our appreciation for the examples and references to English learners, student experience, knowledge, and native languages that are reflected in Chapter 2. Thanks to your work, there are now stronger references to the ELD standards throughout. However, there are still areas where the specific ELD standards can be called out. During the meeting today, we have appreciated some of the recommendations to strengthen this alignment. For Chapter 12, we greatly appreciate the references under each of the 5 categories that support math instruction that is differentiated to meet the needs of California's diverse learners. We thank the committee for making a recommendation to emphasize the importance of multilingual materials. These materials can support students enrolled in dual language programs and strengthen family engagement. We also encourage the writers to further look at the 15 guidelines for math instructional materials developed by the English Learner Success Forum. These offer several opportunities to strengthen each of the 5 categories. As a resource, we have developed a letter that maps the 15 guidelines to each of the 5 elements. We appreciate some of the recommendations that have been made throughout the day today that incorporate several of these guidelines. And lastly, I want to thank the committee members, writers, and staff for your thoughtful work and efforts throughout this process. We have definitely seen improvements through each iteration of the chapters, and truly thank you for your thoughtful efforts during this process, during the last couple of months. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, you may begin.
Thank you, committee members, writers, and CDE staff members. My name is Rachel Ruffalo. I am the Director of Educator Engagement with the Education Trust West, one of 16 co-signing organizations on the public comment letter that was submitted to the committee titled December 14th Math CFCC Letter. Like the caller before me, I would also like to express my appreciation to the committee members for reviewing our comments. We recognize that you have many materials to review and multiple perspectives to consider. Throughout our public comment letters over the last several months, our coalition has encouraged the committee members to make recommendations to the writers regarding some key areas, including taking an asset-based orientation towards California's diverse students' lived experiences, home languages, and cultures, and 2, providing actionable guidance to educators for the meaningful integration of the ELD standards and English language development strategies. Throughout the draft process, we've seen great growth in these areas. Our public comment letter today provides some specific recommendations and suggested language for where and how the chapters can be strengthened even further, in our opinion. For the chapters that you'll be reviewing tomorrow, we have provided specific recommendations for Chapter 6 and 7. To highlight 2 of those comments, Chapter 6, page 40, line 861, we recommend language that notes referencing phenomena in students' local communities and their lives is an access point for all students and especially for English learners, and this will support concept development in the math content. For Chapter 7, we recommend referencing the CDE ELD video series that highlights Grade 8 Math Integrated ELD solving word problems. Again, thank you for your consideration of our comments and for your service to the students and educators of California, especially during such a challenging year. I wish you all a healthy and restful holiday break. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no further public comment.
Thank you, Denise. Okay, so that is the end of public comment. And congratulations on your work today. So as a reminder, you completed 3 chapters at your last meeting. So that was the December 2nd meeting. And then we have the 5 chapters that you've completed to date. So we only have 5 more to go. And the smoothness of today's process is just really indicative of all the hard work that has happened throughout this entire process. So we're looking ahead to tomorrow. We will begin the day with the discussion of the grade banded chapters 6, 7, 8. And then we will conclude with chapters 1 and 13 in the afternoon. So that's it for today, unless you have any questions. And this is the last time that you will get to hear me say, if you have any discussions with each other between now and tomorrow morning, be sure it's not at all related to the committee's work. So with that, if there are no questions, we will see you tomorrow, just a few moments before 9 a.m. in the main room. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.